Hi, welcome to our daily encounter. In John chapter 12, we have some Greeks coming to Philip and saying that they wish to see Jesus. And Philip tells Andrew, and then they tell Jesus. And this is what Jesus says. He says, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." And so this message that these Greeks wanted to see Jesus was an indicator that the time had come for Jesus to be glorified. And there's a whole different topic we could get in about the Greeks and how Jesus' death would open up the way to the Gentiles, to the Jews and the Gentiles, and his death would bear much fruit and spread to the rest of the world. But we just want to focus here on this one thing that Jesus is saying here, that he makes the point that if a grain falls, or if a grain doesn't fall into the ground, it doesn't bear any fruit. You can put it on your shelf, you can put it on your mantle, you can put it anywhere, but it's not going to bear any fruit. In order for a seed to bear fruit, it's got to go into the earth and it's got to die. And when that seed dies, the germ of life within it is able to burst forth and become a plant. And once it grows up to be a plant, it can bear a lot of fruit. And Jesus is relaying this to himself. He's saying, I have to go through death. I have to go through the death of the cross. And unless I do that, and until I do that, the fruit that the Father is looking for will not come out. It was through Jesus' death that would spring forth his resurrection, and through his resurrection would bring salvation and the message of salvation to the whole world, to Jews and Gentiles. And it would bear much, much fruit. But it all starts with Jesus dying on the cross. But here he's not just speaking this truth just in relation to himself. This is also a general principle that extends out to all of Jesus' disciples, those who wish to be with him and to follow him. Because he goes on to say in the next verse, "He who loves his life loses it, and he who hates his life in this world will keep it to life eternal. If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him." And so the same principle that directly relates to Jesus, as a principle relates to all of us. That unless we are willing to die with Jesus, that is to surrender our all to him and surrender our all to the will of God and to the work of the kingdom, we cannot bear any fruit. We can become a seed. We can be a seed, and maybe we're a good-looking seed. Maybe it's a seed that can be put on a mantle or on a shelf or something like that, but we're not going to bear any fruit. And unfortunately, there's a lot of Christians who look good, who look the part, who put on a good show, but really, in essence, they're not bearing any fruit because maybe they've learned to follow a checklist of rules and things, but they haven't learned really the ultimate law, the law of death. Jesus says to follow him, he must follow me. Where are we to follow him? We are to follow him to the cross. In other places connected to that is, he says, he must take up his cross and follow me. And so the idea is that we're following him to the cross, and we die there with him in the cross. And if we're willing to go through that, we will also experience, even in this life, resurrected life. Resurrected life in regards to sin, dying to our old self and the sins that we used to commit, and then living out the resurrected life of holiness and righteousness before him, but also in relation to the fruit that we bear. Many times we do not bear the fruit that we have the potential to bear fruit because we are too much in love with our life. We are too self-centered. We're too busy building our own kingdom that we can't build the kingdom of God. And maybe some of our affection, some of our love for other people, our relationships, maybe our hobbies, maybe our jobs, our careers, maybe there could be a long list of things that we love more than doing the work of the Lord. And it's not that those things are wrong in and of themselves, but they choke out the true business that we should be about, and that is doing the work of the Lord. And so we have to learn to put ourselves aside, to put our own desires and our own cares aside, and to begin to look upward and say, Lord, what do you want from my life? What do you want me to do? And surrender ourselves to Him until we get to that point where we die to ourselves, to where we no longer love our lives more than we love God, that we can really be useful for the kingdom and begin to really bear fruit. And we can look throughout church history and see people who literally lost their life for the sake of the kingdom, and we are still reaping the benefits of those sacrifices. But we may not have to literally die for the work of the kingdom, but figuratively we do die. If we die every day and say, you know what, it would be very, very comforting, it would be very easy for me to just sit down on my recliner, watch TV, spend hours in front of the TV and not do anything for the Lord. It'd be very easy to just waste my life just in self-pleasure and self-centeredness and not worry about the kingdom. That'd be a very easy thing to do, and it's something that we have to constantly fight against, because it is easy to slip back into that. But we have to make a commitment and say, my life is no longer about me. It's now about Him. And I have to die to that part of me that wants comfort, that wants all of these other things, so that I can be open to the opportunities that God can give me to serve Him. And that's true of all of us. So as we read in our reading today, this John chapter 12, verses 20 through 26, let's think about that. Think about, what would your life be like if you surrendered all? Imagine that. Imagine what your Christian walk would be like. What types of fruit you would be bearing. What types of things you would be doing if you surrendered all to the Lord. And bring that to the Lord and say, Lord, help me to make the appropriate sacrifices to be able to serve you better. It takes wisdom. It takes balance. We still have to take care of things here in this world, and we still have to, take care of relationships that we have and everything like that. And so it takes balance, but it takes wisdom, and we need to pray to the Lord that He gives us the wisdom to make those tough decisions, and also the courage to make those tough decisions. So these are some things to think about, even some things we can start putting into practice. I do thank you guys for listening in today. I hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.